Tonight, on First at 9 this Thursday the 13th of February 2025. Pulling the plug. India's Adani Group scraps billion-dollar renewable wind farm project in Mana, citing Sri Lankan government's push to lower energy costs. Legal U-turn. Attorney General reverses decision to release 3 suspects linked to journalist Lasantha Wickramatunge's murder following public outcry. Power struggle. CEB enforces power cuts as post-holiday demand surges. Tomorrow's schedule to be announced in the morning.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama, Kiren Perata. Obe Vishwasi dinu Sensodyne, then Langamati Pharmacy in Labagata Hacker.
Kanta parisang karagattot? Api parisang.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasafe, Vesat Mattu Gatharat Disney.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story tonight, India's Adani Group today withdrew from the proposed $1 billion renewable wind farm and transmission projects in Mana and Punarin. In a letter to the chairman of the Board of Investment, the company cited Sri Lanka's decision to renegotiate the project proposal in a bid to reduce the cost of energy as the reason for the withdrawal. Despite the withdrawal, Adani Green Energy said it remains committed to Sri Lanka and is open to future collaboration if the Sri Lankan government so desires. In 2022, the then Sri Lankan government issued a temporary license to India's Adani Green Energy to construct 2 renewable wind farms in Mana and Punarin. The project aimed to establish a 286-megawatt wind farm in Mana and a 234-megawatt farm in Punarin, alongside a 220-kilovolt and 400-kilovolt transmission network expansion to carry electricity to consumptive centres in the southern part of Sri Lanka. According to Adani Green Energy, these projects were envisaged to collectively see investments of about $1 billion based on build, own, operate concept. However, various parties filed fundamental rights petitions before the Supreme Court, alleging that the construction of the proposed wind farm in Mana may endanger the lives of migratory birds, thereby damaging the ecosystem. When the petitions were last considered on the 14th of October last year, the Attorney General informed the court that the then Cabinet of Ministers had decided to reconsider the project. Subsequently, Sri Lanka began reviewing Adani Group projects after US authorities in November accused the group's billionaire founder Gautam Adani and other executives of being part of a scheme to pay bribes to secure Indian power supply deals, but no further action was taken. Meanwhile, last month, the Sri Lankan government said it had begun talks with the Adani Group to reduce the cost of power from the project to about 6 US cents per kilowatt hour or less from the earlier figure of 8 US cents. Against this backdrop, Adani Green Energy, in a letter addressed to the chairman of Sri Lanka's Board of Investment dated yesterday, informed that its board had decided to withdraw from the projects. In the letter, Adani Green Energy highlights that it has already spent about $5 million on pre-development activities, participated in more than 14 rounds of negotiations with state-appointed committees and obtained all clearances and licenses with the exception of the environmental approval for the Mana wind farm and its associated Supreme Court case. However, Adani Green Energy stated that despite the Sri Lankan government previously agreeing to a 20-year fixed tariff for the power purchase agreement, it was informed that another cabinet-appointed negotiations committee and project committee would be constituted to renegotiate the project proposal. Accordingly, the company's board, following deliberations, had decided that while it fully respects the sovereign rights of Sri Lanka and its choices, it would respectfully withdraw from the project. Meanwhile, today, Adani Green Energy, in a media statement, said that despite its withdrawal from the project, it remains committed to Sri Lanka and is open to future collaboration if the Sri Lankan government so desires. Meanwhile, the Ceylon Electricity Board announced today that the final decision regarding tomorrow's scheduled power cuts will be made based on the situation at the Norachole coal power plant. In the meantime, a complaint was lodged with the Criminal Investigation Department today requesting that an investigation be conducted regarding the reports that the 3 engineers who were supposed to be on duty at the System Control Centre of the Electricity Board during the island-wide power failure on Sunday were absent when the outage occurred. Due to the system imbalance that caused an island-wide power outage last Sunday, all 3 generators at the Norachole coal power plant went offline. As a result, the Ceylon Electricity Board took steps to schedule 1.5-hour power cuts on Monday and Tuesday due to its inability to manage demand. However, with the reduced demand for electricity due to the Poya holiday, power cuts were not implemented yesterday. Despite this, the Ceylon Electricity Board announced this morning that another island-wide power cut would be imposed today, taking into account the current situation. Accordingly, 1-hour power cuts would be imposed in different zones under 4 categories between 5 and 9:30 p.m. today. In the meantime, it is reported that electrical engineers and staff are working swiftly to restore the 3 generators at the Norachole coal power plant and reconnect them to the national grid. Accordingly, the Ceylon Electricity Board said that the final decision on whether further power cuts would be imposed tomorrow will be announced next morning based on the situation at the Norachole coal power plant. Meanwhile, the Electricity Consumers Association lodged a complaint with the Criminal Investigation Department today requesting that an investigation be conducted regarding the reports that the 3 engineers who were supposed to be on duty at the System Control Centre of the Electricity Board when the island-wide power failure occurred last Sunday were absent at the time of the failure. Meanwhile, commenting on India's Adani Group withdrawing from its renewable energy project, opposition MP Dr. Harshdeep Silva stated that Sri Lanka risks losing IMF and World Bank support due to the developments or the government's reversal of reforms. Additionally, addressing the ongoing power cuts, leader of the United Republican Front, Partali Champika Ranaka, warned that if the government fails to control this situation, a much worse crisis could occur in April this year. With that, here's a look at other remarks made in the political arena today.
Australian
investors have also left the country. There is a US investor scheduled to arrive in the coming days, and it remains uncertain what will happen. The government is attempting to amend the Electricity Act, mandating that the ownership of all entities under the Ceylon Electricity Board be held entirely by the state. They are reversing all economic reforms. Additionally, the World Bank provided $200 million in budgetary support due to an agreement to implement these reforms. If the reforms are reversed and the government proceeds with the full state ownership, Sri Lanka will not receive the remaining IMF tranches. It appears we are moving from one crisis to another. It's not just Adani. Other investors are also reconsidering their stance. Many have lost faith in the country and are engaged in internal discussions about their next moves. Even local business owners are considering relocating to Dubai or other nations to sustain and grow their businesses as confidence in Sri Lanka continues to decline. This was not a power cut but a breakdown that has since been rectified. The necessary measures have been taken and the CEB is in the process of restoring normal operations. As the Minister of Energy and an engineer, he should have been more cautious when providing an explanation. At the very least, he should have consulted with engineers before hastily attributed the issue to a monkey. The power system is highly advanced and should be managed accordingly. Moving forward, if outages occur due to negligence or short-sighted decisions, there must be a mechanism to compensation. I must warn that if the situation is not controlled and if we do not receive adequate water by April this year, the power sector may face an even worse crisis.
Union Assurance. Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
Don't waste time. Start your degree with pending A-level results this February with our partner universities. Call ACBT on 0117 699 499.
President Anura Dissanayake, who made his inaugural visit to the United Arab Emirates, returned to Sri Lanka today. During the visit, President Dissanayake attended and addressed the World Government Summit 2025 in Dubai. On the sidelines of the summit, Sri Lanka and the UAE signed an agreement to promote and protect investments between the two countries to strengthen economic and investment ties. President Anura Dissanayake made his third official state visit to the United Arab Emirates on Monday, the 10th of February, at the invitation of the President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. During the visit, President Dissanayake engaged in bilateral discussions with Pakistani Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif and the Prime Minister of Kuwait, Sheikh Ahmed Abdullah Al Ahmad Bil Sabah. The Sri Lankan President also met the Executive Vice Chairman of the Oracle Corporation, Mike Cecilia, and held discussions on Sri Lanka's digital transformation, for which Oracle expressed willingness to extend its support. In the meantime, President Anura Dissanayake joined a public gathering held at the Pullman City Centre in Dubai. Yesterday, President Dissanayake attended and addressed the World Government Summit 2025 in Dubai.
I urge all of you gathered at this historic summit, let us come together to create a beautiful life and a beautiful world for all.
On the sidelines of the summit, Sri Lanka and the UAE reached an agreement on reciprocal promotion and protection of investments to strengthen economic and investment relations between the two countries. The agreement was signed by the United Arab Emirates Minister of State for Financial Affairs Mohammed bin Hadi Al Husseini and Sri Lanka's Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijitha Herath. Following the three-day state visit, President Anura Dissanayake returned to Sri Lanka this morning. US President Donald Trump says both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have expressed a desire for peace, and that as such he has directed top US officials to begin negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. Commenting on the matter today, Russian Ambassador to Sri Lanka Levan Zagarian said that Russia remains optimistic about the new US administration's initiatives. Additionally, addressing the issue of former Sri Lankan military personnel recruited to fight in the war, Ambassador Zagarian emphasized that providing compensation for them is a top priority for Russia. US President Donald Trump today stated that both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed a desire for peace during separate phone calls with him yesterday.
We had a great call and lasted for a long time, over an hour this morning. I also had with President Zelensky a very good call after that. And I think we're on the way to getting peace. I think President Putin wants peace and President Zelensky wants peace, and I want peace. I just want to see people stop getting killed. And that's President Putin said that. He wants it to end. He doesn't want to end it and then go back to fighting 6 months later. I think we'll probably end up at some point getting a ceasefire in the not too distant future.
In response, President Trump directed Secretary of State Marco Rubio, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and Middle East Envoy Steve Witkoff to initiate negotiations aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, commenting on the matter, Russian Ambassador to Sri Lanka Levan Zagarian stated that the Russian government views the US President's initiative positively.
President Trump, from the very beginning of his campaign, promised to put an end to this war. He is very pragmatic. His returning to power means that there is a sort of window of opportunities. And President Putin invited President Trump to visit Moscow. Hope that they will meet soon, maybe in the third country. And we are waiting for a high-ranking American delegation to Moscow to discuss different issues, and not only war, to put an end to the war in Ukraine. Because our partnership is very important, and just we can work together to settle down many issues, many problems. Fortunately, current American administration are more pragmatic and they understand the realities quite well. NATO is totally unacceptable for us, as well as military infrastructure of NATO close to our borders. And of course, the issue of 4 new regions which we returned back, historical Russian land. I do believe that we will be able to make a good job with a Republican. Personally, I am very optimistic.
The war is burden for everyone and a disaster for everyone. So what can you think about the future development?
You are quite right about burden. It's sanctions which were imposed against my country, 16 packages of sanctions. It's a lose-lose game. They also are damaging themselves. European people are fed up with this war, and they would like to force their governments to make all necessary steps to put an end. That we are very grateful for Sri Lankan policy towards this conflict in the Ukraine. Impartiality, neutral policy, neutral position, we highly appreciate it. We highly appreciate it, and we do believe that in future such policy will be continued. We are in close contact with the foreign ministry in this regard. We are in close contact with defense ministry, with my capital, and just we are discussing the issues. No recruitment anymore, but even your foreign minister, Honorable Mr. Vajita Herat, said everyone went voluntarily. Nobody forced them to go. Some Sri Lankans were recruiting from the opposite side. It's reality. Let's don't forget about it. We are working about compensation, about treatment of those who were injured. Also, we need some information, for example, some DNA information about those who are missing in action. Issue of compensation is one of the priority for me. We pay tribute to those who passed away in the front line. They are heroes of my country.
Tax consultant Suresh Perera says that the new individual taxation scheme announced by President Anura Dissanayake last year in Parliament is expected to be included in the coming budget proposal set to be presented next week. He also emphasised the need for the government to provide greater clarity on tax regulations for individuals earning foreign currency, as they are currently exempt from taxation under the existing system.
From the perspective of taxation, I don't expect big surprises because this budget is being presented within the IMF framework. The major deviation that we expect compared to the IMF proposals is in relation to the individual taxation. On the 18th of December, President pointed out a new scheme to be introduced, deviating from the normal scheme, which provides tax savings for everyone. So what I expect is that proposal will be presented in the budget speech. In a nutshell, in that proposal, there are tax savings for everyone, whether you are rich or poor, and the only clarification I think we may keep our fingers crossed to see is in relation to the fate of the foreign currency earners, individuals who are foreign currency earners, because right now, subject to conditions, if the individuals earn foreign currency, they have a income tax exemption. Right now, not only the individuals, even the corporates are entitled for that exemption if they are earning foreign currency, subject to fulfilling the criteria. But according to the documents that we have seen in the IMF reports, the expression is to provide a new tax regime, that is 15% income tax rate for the corporates. With regard to the motor vehicles, of course, the duty structure has been spelled out. Whether there will be any changes introduced, for instance, will there be a specification with regard to the age of the motor vehicle to be introduced, whether it will be applicable for 5 years, 7 years, or only remain at for 3 years. That issue, I think, we may sometimes see expression with regard to that. Another interesting area is to see how the budget proposals will address the capital markets. Right now, listed company shares are subject to share transaction levy. Whether that will witness a change, whether there will be capital gains taxes introduced in relation to the share market transactions, which is not there right now, and also whether there will be stamp duty introduced in relation to the listed company shares, or maybe even the private company shares.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
ඩයබටිසෝල් සීනිවලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
Kalani wire කිසිගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසිගින්නක් නෑ. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya says that legal action must be taken against government institutions that contribute to the spread of dengue by harbouring breeding sites for dengue mosquitoes. The Premier made these remarks during the Colombo District Coordination Committee meeting today. The Colombo District Coordination Committee meeting was held today at the Colombo District Secretariat under the patronage of Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya. The spread of dengue in Colombo was a focus of the discussions.
Special dengue control program conducted up to yesterday, madam. We found government institution, the positive breeding size, 47%.
So the government institutions, the 47%, what exactly is happening there?
Usually, madam, government institution, the area is very big. They have a lot of abandoned places and discarded items.
So those are the areas where you found a lot of cases.
High risk cases.
So Is it because the government institutions are located there?
Government institution, madam, definitely. Because houses, we are having less breeding grounds.
And what about law enforcement? In houses, when people are having dengue sites,
yes.
The law go with full force.
Correct.
Does the law go with the same force?
We first inspected the place. Legal action, we government institution, we are not imposing 100%, sir.
That's where the problem lies. Government institution cannot be above the law.
Yeah, correct.
Exactly. As the minister is saying, it can't be lack of awareness, no?
So, madam, in future we will enforce the law, even against the government institutions.
Anyone who breaks the law, whether it's in the home, whether it's in the workplace, are subject to the same law.
The Attorney General informed the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court today that he will temporarily suspend his directive to release 3 suspects facing multiple charges, including concealing evidence in connection with the murder of journalist Lasantha Wickramatunge. Accordingly, the legal matter regarding Wickramatunge's murder will be recalled before the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court on the 30th of May for further direction from the Attorney General. Lasantha Wickramatunge, the editor of the Sunday Leader, was murdered in the Attidi area of Ratmalana on the 8th of January 2009 while travelling in his car. In 2016, Premananda Udalagama, an army intelligence sergeant, was arrested by the CID for allegedly threatening Wickramatunge's driver, a key witness in the case. Similarly, in 2018, then officer in charge of the crime branch of the Mount Lavinia Police, Tissasiri Sugatapala, and then Deputy Inspector General Prasanna Nanayakara, who oversaw the Western Province South Range, were arrested on charges of concealing evidence related to the murder. Although all 3 suspects were later released on bail, the case remained under consideration at the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court. On the 27th of January this year, Attorney General Derana informed the Director of the Criminal Investigation Department via letter that he did not intend to pursue further legal action against the suspects in Case B92/2009 pending before the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court. He instructed the CID to notify the magistrate of their release and report back within 14 days. However, this decision was met with strong opposition from journalists and civil society organisations. Lasantha Wickramatunge's daughter Ahimsa Wickramatunge forwarded a letter to the Prime Minister urging the government to initiate impeachment proceedings against Attorney General Derana. President Anura Dissanayake also summoned the Attorney General last week to inquire about the matter. Following the backlash, the CID, acting on the Attorney General's advice, submitted a motion today to recall the Lasantha Wickramatunge murder case at the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court. During the proceedings, the CID presented the Attorney General's revised stance and informed the court that the CID had sent a summary report on the investigations into the suspects to the Attorney General, requesting that he reconsider the decision to release them from the case. In response, the Attorney General submitted a written report to the court stating that the order to release the 3 suspects would be temporarily suspended. Accordingly, Mount Lavinia Magistrate Chaturika Silva instructed the CID to formally document this notification and scheduled the case for reconsideration on the 30th of May for further direction from the Attorney General. Leader of the Sarvajana Balaya, Parliamentarian Dilip Jayavira, emphasises that Sri Lanka's school system must focus on promoting leadership, personality, attitudes and positive thinking in students. He made these remarks during an event at Sri Pali College in Horana today. The Sri Pali Mela, an educational and trade fair, was held today to mark the 90th anniversary of Sri Pali College, Horana. Leader of the Sarvajana Balaya, Parliamentarian Dilip Jayavira, was the chief guest of the event. The concept of schooling is misunderstood. We think that learning what's in textbooks is the reason to attend school. Therefore, students do not attend advanced level classes in the majority of schools across the island. They believe that they can obtain the same education by attending tuition classes and pass examinations to attend universities. It is useless to attend universities by going down that route. Such students lack personality, and if they socialize without inculcating positive attitudes, it will not do good to themselves or the country. Therefore, the school system must stand as a focal point to promote leadership, personality, attitudes and positive thinking. I believe that this school will take steps to carry that concept forward.
ඉතින් මම හිතනවා මේ පාසල ඒ සංකල්පය ඉදිරියට ගෙනියන්නට නායකත්වය ගනීවි.
Sri Lankan Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath, during a conversation with Thailand's Minister of Foreign Affairs today, highlighted the significance of diplomatic relations between the two countries and requested Thailand's support in the safe repatriation of Sri Lankan victims of human trafficking. This development comes as 260 people, including a Sri Lankan who had been working at a telecom scam centre in Myanmar, were recently rescued and brought to Thailand. Sri Lanka's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism, Vijitha Herath, today held a telephone conversation with Thailand's Minister of Foreign Affairs to reaffirm Sri Lanka's commitment to strengthening bilateral cooperation and emphasise the urgent assistance required in rescuing and safely repatriating Sri Lankan victims of human trafficking. Since 2023, Thailand has facilitated the safe return of 58 Sri Lankans who were forcibly detained in cybercrime centres in the Miyawadi area of Myanmar. Foreign Minister Herath expressed appreciation for Thailand's ongoing support to rescue and safely repatriate the 18 Sri Lankans remaining in the cybercrime centres. He also expressed Sri Lanka's continued support for Thailand's chairmanship of BIMSTEC ahead of the BIMSTEC summit scheduled for April this year. The Thai Foreign Minister meanwhile assured assistance for Sri Lanka in the repatriation process. In the meantime, 260 people of 20 nationalities, including a Sri Lankan who had been working in telecom fraud centres in Myanmar's Karen state, have been released by the Democratic Karen Benevolent Army, an ethnic armed group, and brought to Thailand. The workers were received by the Thai army and are being assessed to find out if they were victims of human trafficking. The Thai government has recently taken measures to shut down these scam centres, which have proliferated along the Thai-Myanmar border, by stopping access to power and fuel from the Thai side of the border and toughening banking and visa rules to try to prevent scams operating from using Thailand as a transit country for moving workers and cash. And now here's a look at more news across the island in brief.
Letter requesting the postponement of the local government election was handed over to the Election Commission today. The letter, signed by General Secretaries of 13 recognised political parties, requests the postponement of the election considering the upcoming 2025 budget debate, the GCE O-level exam and the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. A massive fire broken out at fragrance manufacturing factory located within the BOI industrial zone in Borulugoda, Horana. Several fire trucks have already been dispatched to assist in extinguishing the flames by the Horana Fire Brigade. An 11-year-old school student has succumbed to his injuries after a rusted football goalpost collapsed onto his head at a school in Polonnaruwa. The tragic incident occurred while the young student was assisting a group of individuals to remove the rusted-off goalpost. The organs of the deceased are expected to be donated for those requiring organ transplants.
Welcome back. The Colombo bourse closed in green today as a result of price gains in counters such as Lanka Holdings, Central Finance Company and Sampath Bank. The old share price index climbed 1.42%, settling at 16,578.22 points. Meanwhile, the S&P Sri Lanka 20 climbed 1.07%, ending at 4,944.60 points. Market turnover stood at 3.5 billion rupees. The consumer durables and apparel sector was the top contributor to turnover, followed by the capital goods sector. Furthermore, foreigners closed as net sellers, offloading shares worth 987 million rupees. And up next, we have senior analyst of Capital Alliance, Sahajit Nazar, with some thoughts on the current status of the economy in our next segment, Economic Outlook.
In February 2025, the Colombo Consumer Price Index recorded a deflation of 4%. CCPI-based core inflation fell to 1.2%. The construction sector showed continued growth with the Purchasing Managers Index indicating an expansion in industry activity. On February 7, 2025, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka decided to maintain the overnight policy rate at 8%. AWPLR declined by 1 basis point to 9.09%. AWCMR remains steady at 8%. Reserve money rose primarily due to increased currency circulation. Market liquidity improved with the total outstanding surplus rising to 176.86 billion rupees. Sri Lanka's external sector showed notable changes, with export earnings growing by 7.2% year-on-year. However, the import expenditure surged by 12.1% year-on-year, widening the trade deficit.
And with that, here's a look at the rupee exchange rates for the day. And that's all for tonight. Stay in touch with Ada Derana, the Sri Lankan news brand of international excellence, for the latest developments around the clock. Thank you and have a good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.